Hi everyone, it's Professor Fernandez. So we are now talking about fiction, and you're probably thinking, wow, this class is moving really fast. Yeah, this class moves pretty fast. And the reason why we move pretty fast is that we have a lot of things to cover before the second half of the semester. So let me recap what you've learned so far and tell you where we are. So you started off learning about essays, not so much writing them, but so much reading them, learning about the elements of argument and learning about this thing called the rhetorical situation. And what the rhetorical situation is a process to understand not only what is being argued in any piece of rhetoric, but how that argument was made. So when you're looking at, say, an essay or a poem or a short story, like what you're about to do in this week, you will have a process in order to analyze that piece and to try to understand what the argument is. This week, you're going to be working on uh, argument statements, and that's always interesting. But before we get to argument statement, let's do a little bit more recapping. So after essays, we moved on to poetry. And this is where things got sticky. How do you try to understand the rhetorical situation with a poem? Well, you go through the process. And I used Le- Legacies. Yeah, Legacies by Nikki Giovanni to help you out. So we started with the writer's process. We needed to know who Nikki Giovanni was. Then we went to audience and we looked at intended and unintended audience. And the intended audience is always going to be who who this piece was intended for. And you're always going to learn that by looking at where it's published. Don't make an assumption that something was intended for an audience based on how it was written. That's not always the case. So you have to look at where it was originally published. For example, if you're looking at Nikki Giovanni's piece, you know that that was published in a collection of poetry from the 70s, actually. So she intended it for people from the 70s in that collection to read it first. It was reprinted in 2003, and so that was the unintended audience. She didn't write it originally for them, but that's the unintended audience who read the reprint. So you always have to look at where things are published or where they were published, and the audience of where that thing was published, whether it was a magazine or online or um, in a book or poetry collection. Who were those people? Those are always your intended audience. Then after intended audience, you have topic. And topic can be a little bit difficult, but it's really the things that they are addressing in the piece. This is when you're actually going to have to read the piece. And you may have to read it more than one time, and that's perfectly fine. In fact, you should read it more than one time. And so you'll look at the piece and you'll understand what topic is or what topics they are addressing. Are they addressing more than one topic? Yes, they usually are addressing several topics in one piece. So don't think that there's only one topic in a piece. There is probably a good 10 if you think about it. Then you have context, and this can be a sticky widget for people. Context is can be twofold. One, context can be what they're addressing, the times that it was written in. Maybe there is a response to an event or to a way of thinking or to the times that they were living in. That's what research is for. Or it could be something that they usually write about. Like we learned with Nikki Giovanni, she had a really strong kinship with her grandmother and considers herself a storyteller because of her grandmother. So that is context, and that added a little bit more understanding to the piece. And then, of course, is strategy. And under strategy, it depends on what you are reading. So if you are reading an essay, like Letter from Birmingham Jail, then you're going to use the elements of argument, all 8. If you're reading a poem, you're going to use the elements of poetry, You're going to go all the way from speaker to rhythm to sound, the whole nine. If you are reading a short story or a book that's fiction, more than likely you're going to use the elements of fiction. You're going to use all 5 plus the other 2 that's mentioned in the book. So pretty much that's it. That's the entire process, and that's the backbone to this class. So that's where we are. We are now learning how to do this process with fiction. We learned to do this process with essay. We've learned to do this process with poetry. Now we're learning how to do this process with fiction. And so that's kind of the makeup of this class. So the second half of this class, you're actually going to do this pretty much all on your own. And the more you practice this, the better you get at it, which is why I have you do a couple of redos, because I want you to practice it and I want you to get it right. Once you have it, you have it. Now, you've probably heard me say before that if you do this in 20 minutes, it's not done correctly. It's not. Just remember our last video from last week about Nikki Giovanni and how long it took me to explain this to you. It took about a solid 30 minutes. And I'm the teacher. It should take you no less than 45 minutes to 1 hour to do the entire process. And so you're probably thinking, why should I do this process? This is really involved. Again, the whole idea is to look to see what the argument is, what it's about, and how the argument is made. This is also going to help you in the long run. Your journals are interesting, and that's not just you guys, it's everybody. And so how is that going to help you do the journals? Well, if you're doing a search for your news article by topic, you've already done topic. If you look at it and then you understand the context of it, you can talk about the context of the piece and perhaps the context of the article when you're doing your analysis. Or maybe you want to use one of the strategies that you've learned and you want to go in depth with one of the strategies and how the writer used that strategy to talk about their topic or talk about their argument. Pretty much, you're doing a lot of the legwork before you do your journal. So that way, when you do your journal, it's really a matter of just thinking it through and putting it on the page. Now, the second half of this class, you'll be doing a journal a week. Right now, you get a little bit of a breather and a little bit of a break. But soon, very soon, you'll be asked to do these journals one after the other, after the other, after the other. So it's important that you understand this process. Now, if you don't understand this process, or you don't understand any of the components of this process, please do message me. In fact, I'll do you one better. Why don't you just schedule office hours and I can just sit here and explain it to you one-on-one? It's perfectly fine. You also have Teams meetings, which we have the schedules on the syllabus where you can ask questions. I'm pretty sure we're going to have a Teams meeting pretty soon. So I hope this video helped you understand a little bit about what's going on. If you feel frustrated, good. You should feel frustrated right now. I'm asking you to rewrite how you're thinking things. I'm asking you to understand a different definition for words like persuasion and reasoning. I'm asking you to think deeper. This is a thinking class. Yes, it's English. You will be writing. I know, because I'm grading it. You will be writing a lot. But writing comes with thinking. Writing isn't just singular. It's plural. It comes with other things. It comes with reading. It comes with thinking. Catch you guys later. Bye.